Our next guest is an award-winning journalist who wrote for the Tampa Bay Times for more than 30 years. But just because he is not writing for the Times, that does not mean he has quit writing about the Sunshine State. In fact, Jeff Klinkenberg grew up in pre-air conditioning Florida before the interstates and theme parks took over. And his new book chronicles his encounters in a heartfelt tribute called Son of Real Florida, Stories from My Life. He joins us this morning. Good morning. What a pleasure to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, congrats on the book. We were saying before we got started, once a writer, always a writer. You'll never stop, right?
You can't stop. They're going to have to pry these fingers away from that keyboard, I think.
Yeah, well, and let's talk about your background a little bit, because I do think it's important to know. I love the picture right off the top of the book. I mean, this is not only is Florida where you worked for so many years, but this is where you were raised as a young boy as well.
Yes. Well, that photograph of my dad and me was taken in Key West in 1954.
Oh.
He was a musician, and he had this summer gig there, and it was a place where Florida was imprinted on me, because he'd work at night, musicians do, and then when he got up about 11 a.m., we'd go fishing. And I think that's how it happens for a lot of people in Florida. You get imprinted on something, and it might be fishing, it might be birds, it might be just history or whatever. And the next thing you know, you're a real Floridian. You're not just a transient who's going to hang his hat here until he can make money someplace else. So that's how it was with me. And even when I was a kid, I mean, I was engaged with everything. For me, it started with fish, and then snakes, and then history and plants.
Well, you're in the right state for all of that.
Yes,
and it was
I
funny,
am.
Before we got started talking, I said, have you ever moved out of the state or worked out of the state? Because for me, I grew up here, but I lived in North Carolina for several years, and it wasn't until I moved back home where I thought I could fully appreciate it. When was it that you thought, this is where I want to be forever? And I mean, was it young where you realized what a great state this was and how rich in stories it is?
I forget who the famous bank robber was, Willie something, but somebody said, why did you rob the banks? And he said, because that's where the money is. And for me, it's where the stories are. And maybe I could have done the same thing in North Carolina or somewhere else, but it just seemed to me that wherever I looked,
there's a story to be told,
And I was really lucky to be able to do it the way I wanted to do it, where I could travel from Key West to Pensacola. My boss said, just find me something interesting. Well,
and I love in this book, too, I want to make sure, and kind of the way you broke it up, I think is interesting, too, because that's how you started, was with your life. And by the way, you started, I want to look at this picture of this first newspaper you worked on when you were a kid. So again, this started very young for you.
I think I was 10 or 11, and I used to, this isn't the only one I did. I would do these newspapers. And,
that looks awesome.
And by the way, circulation was 2. I was doing them by hand. And
that makes it more valuable.
My brother and I laughed because the lead story there is about my brother. It's called Marty Flies His Own Kite.
That's awesome.
It was pretty big when he did that, I think he let go of the string, though. But
well, and let's talk about the book and how you lay it out. You kind of section it off between kind of places to eat, kind of the food, what makes Florida, the people. And I love that it's not just celebrities or it's everyday people that make up the state so interesting.
Yes, and I mean, there's, there are all kinds of people in here, but a lot of the people that I wrote about over my career there had never been written about before. And one of the things I got from my mother, the astonishing Beatrice Mary Grace O'Donnell, the nosy Irish gal, was this amazing curiosity about people. And she thought, and I'm guessing you're the same, that every person has a story to tell.
Absolutely.
And, I like people. I'm good with people. I would go to where they live, wherever it was, and I would spend time with them. I wasn't just there for 5 minutes. Hey, tell me. I'd eat with them. We would go for drives.
That's awesome. Well, we're so glad you continue to write. We hope there's more to come. The last picture I know we didn't get to was a post office, but in the book is also about places, different places that you've traveled kind of everywhere. Again, it's in the book. Where can people get this book, by the way?
They can get it wherever fine books
All
are
right.
sold. Bookstores, online, everywhere. And
well, so glad again you took the time to come and see us.
Thank
Keep
you
us
so
posted.
much.
Again, we know you're going to keep writing, so we'll be back
I
for your
will.
next one, all
Yes,
right?
I appreciate it.
So nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
Good to
Bye.
see you.